Hi, and welcome to part 8 of creating game assets in 3D Coat and Lightwave. I'm Greg Whedon, and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be covering putting bones in the character that we created in 3D Coat. So we're done with the 3D Coat part now. We're going to move into the Lightwave portion of this, and it's a fairly quick video. What you're looking at on the screen right now is a screen capture I did from Unity 3D. So let's get going on this. First thing we have to do is import the OBJ file that we created in 3D Coat. And you'll see here in just a second, as I had mentioned before, this comes into Lightwave really large. It's over 100 meters tall. If you look in that area there, you'll see when I go to measure it how big it is. So first thing we need to do is scale this down to a little bit more life size. And I decided that about 2 meters tall would be a good size for this ghost. Okay, now that he's all scaled down, we can go ahead and bring his hat in. And we'll have to do the same thing with the hat. It's really large too, so we'll scale it down as well. And I'm just making a guess on the size. When I scale this down, we could always scale it back up if we need to. But I'm guessing it's going to be about 1.5 feet tall. Great, and now we'll just copy it or cut it and paste it into the ghost object on layer 2. Now we need to take just a few minutes and get these lined up with each other. They're spaced out really far apart. I'm just moving it into place, and I'm going to rotate it so it looks right on our ghost character. All right, once we get that looking right, we want to go ahead and make some eyeballs for this ghost, and I'll do that with the ball primitive in Modeler. And you'll see that I cut the ball in half. I'm not going to rotate the eyes. Cutting it in half saves, well, half the geometry. So all we need is just kind of an eyeball representation, and we'll create that now. I'm not going to UV map these eyes. We'll just use just a plain texture in Lightwave, and it'll work just fine in Unity, as we'll see here in just a little bit. And here I am just moving the eye into place. T is move in Lightwave. Y rotates. I'm kind of making an assumption at this point that if you use Lightwave, you know all the basic features of it, like change surfaces. So I'm not going to go through and describe each of those, the things I'm doing. I think most of you guys know, and if you don't know, it's just a matter of practice. And I'm trying to show the keys that I'm hitting. Q brings up that surface editor. So you just basically select the polygons you want, hit Q, give them a surface name, and change their color. And I added just a little bit of specularity to the eyeballs. Here I'm going to adjust the mesh on the ghost just a little bit. I'm not going to fuss with this because it's not worth it for what we're doing. We're not going to do close-ups on the ghost face. But we do want it to look decent, so I'm just pulling the mesh down just a little bit from where the eyes are. When I get that looking like I want, then I'm going to do a mirror copy. So now we have both the eyeballs, and I want to cut them out of layer 3 and place them in with the ghost on layer 1. I'm moving the pivot of the hat up to about where it would be if it was pivoting on top of the ghost head, and I'm only doing this in case I want to rotate the hat aside from the ghost. If the pivot's in the wrong place, naturally it's going to rotate in the wrong spot. One last look over, and I'll go ahead and we'll save it and go into layout. Okay, here we are in layout, and what we want to do first of all is go ahead and assign the textures that I created in 3D Coat. I neglected to rename things here. You can see I have Retopo Group 1 and 2, and I know Retopo Group 1 is the hat only because it already has the texture applied. So I'm going to go ahead and rename that, and so I know this one's the ghost. So next we'll go ahead and add the color texture. We're going to UV map, and that's the UV map we created in 3D Coat, and we want to put that color map onto it. Also, I want to turn on smoothing because it really looks faceted right now. Here we'll go ahead and add that specular map we created, and it's really just the eye, excuse me, the mouth as the specular, and maybe a little bit of the gun belt. So next thing we'll do is go ahead and we'll add the normal map. If I would have saved this from 3D Coat as a Lightwave object, 3D Coat would have done all this for me. But you can see it's really very easy to assign it yourself, and it's good to know how. So our maps are all set up now, and we can go ahead and have a quick look, quick render, and it's looking good. So we can start adding some bones. So under the Setup tab, I'm going to draw child bones. And I think the way I'm going to do this, a lot of real animators will cringe at. This is going to work for me. I just really kind of want to do a test here and see that everything's deforming right. Excuse me. And you'll have to excuse my mouse is double clicking today. I'm getting ready to replace it or throw it out the window. And when it double clicks, it adds extra bones there that once in a while you'll see that I have to delete. So I'm doing one chain of bones that takes care of the upper half of the body. And here, this is for the shoulder. And then I'll make a forearm. And there was my double click problem happening again. So I'll have to delete that bone. Going down to the wrist, and then just one bone for the hand. As I mentioned, I won't be animating the fingers separately. Using tip move, I'll try to, looking at the top view, I'll try and get these bones in the right place. Here we're just going to copy that hierarchy from the shoulder on down the arms into the hand to the other side to keep me from having to recreate those bones on the opposite side. And now I'm going to go ahead and go down the ghost's tail. This part I do want to animate. And in the ghost tail, when he is in his kind of his loop position where he's just kind of there but not really doing anything. I do want the tail to move around and maybe curl as he just sits there waiting. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a few bones down the tail. And once again, my double click problem. So I'm having to delete those bones that were accidentally made. And that should do it. What we want to do is select all the bones and rest them with the R key. So holding down the mouse wheel, I'm selecting all the bones at once. Hit R, and now they're rested. Deselect them, and now I'll test this out just to make sure that everything's working as expected. And there we go. We're getting a pretty good deformation considering the few polygons we have to work with there. And here I'll do several bones at once just to see how it looks. Okay, I think that's looking fine. Next thing we'll do is go ahead and test the shoulders and the arms just to make sure we can move those around without too much trouble. At this point, you'll probably notice the hat's down over his head. I'll fix that in a minute. I hadn't really noticed that, and thanks to my mouse, I had accidentally moved the whole ghost. I think I edited that part out. You know, the magic of editing, but I'll fix that in just a second. And here I'm just testing to see that everything works okay with the bending of the arm. I noticed when I rotate the shoulder up here that the side of his body's caving in just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and add a hold bone to that. And here you can see the mouse problem again. So no worry, by the next video I'll have a new mouse. And hopefully that'll take care of it. We have to go ahead and mirror it to the other side as well. And then rest that new bone as well. Once I get them selected, I hit the R key to rest those bones. And then we can just give this another try with rotating that bone just to make sure it's holding, the body mesh is holding in. And it looks like it is. Time to fix the hat. I'm going to go ahead and attach the hat to the head bone. So I hit M for the motion options here. And I just kind of know that the bone is bone 4. I should name these bones, honestly. I will later. But now we have the hat is being controlled by that 4th bone. And when we do a little bit of rotation here, you'll see that the hat moves along as well. I do notice when I turn the head that the scarf is stretching, and that's because it's just painted on. We would have to probably fix that, especially if we're going to go ahead in and do any kind of close-up on the ghost. As it is, I'm really lucky because I'm not doing any big close-ups. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it as it is. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and start setting up some keyframes for the ghost's looping animation, I'll call it, where this is where he's not really doing anything. You can see him off in the distance, and he'll be just kind of moving around a little bit. And this is more of a test than anything, guys. I just want to see how it will look. I'm going to take it into Unity in a few minutes. I'm not going to record that portion of it, but you will see him moving around in Unity by the end of the video. So here I'm just trying to set up some animations that look like the loop. This is going to be a 30 frame long animation. So I want frame 0 and frame 30 to be the same. So when you see me, I hit enter to set keyframes, and I type in 30. That's because that'll put the same keyframe on 0 and 30. So then when we get back to 30, we're ready to loop again. So most of the rest of this video, I'm just doing basically the same thing. I'm going to set some keyframes, try and set up some kind of a looping animation. This probably isn't what I'd want for the actual or final animation, but it is a good test for it, I think. Here I'm just kind of twisting his shoulders a little bit, and I'll set the keyframe on that. So here what we're doing is kind of setting up a Ride the Invisible Horse animation. Now, I don't think I'll land the job at Pixar with this, but I think it'll be good enough to just to show some looping animation, something we can take into Unity and just see how it's going to look. I set the end frame to 29 because since I had set a same keyframe on 0 and 30, excuse me, that would be a double frame there, so it'd be a little bit of a pause. So we'll stop it at 29 actually. I'm just going to test rotating his head a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and export a FBX file, and I'm using XBF 200611. I don't have to scale it or freeze it. I'm going to create a new folder to put the FBX file in. And this one will open up in Unity to test this. And here it is in Unity. I pushed the play button after I put the ghost in and assigned his textures. And you can see he's moving around pretty good. There's kind of a close-up. So that's about it for this video series. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. I know I'll be doing more series, so I hope you'll join me for them. If you like the series, go ahead and hit that like button. It kind of lets people know that you've at least watched it and maybe learned something from it. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.